How to chrono your gun, how to measure the FPS and joules. That's a question we get a lot, and in this video I'm gonna explain everything you need to know to make sure that your gun is field legal. This guide will be universal. It will apply to sniper rifles, assault rifles, SMGs, anything that shoots BB. I'm gonna explain exactly what you need to do, but I'm gonna use the SSG10A3 to show you how to do everything. So let's first start with how the rules are being made, or what rules different fields use. So one way is that the field tells you, hey, your rifle needs to be 500 FPS. What does that mean? With what BBs? Usually they don't even specify what they mean. So if this is the case, that means you should use 0.2 gram BBs, and it doesn't really matter what you are using in the field. That's the first way. Some fields still do it because this is not the optimal way to do it, because obviously with a sniper rifle we use heavier BBs, and there is thing that is called joule creep, meaning with lightweight BBs it actually shows less energy than with heavy BBs. Obviously not ideal, but some fields still do it. So we will first deal with that, and then we will talk about the proper way to measure the power of the gun, which is actually the energy, which is measured in joules. And this is done with the weight that you are actually using, the BB weight that you use during the game. You measure with that at the hop-up settings that you use during the game as well. So that is the most accurate, most fair, and safer way to measure the guns. Okay, so let's first start with how we measure FPS. So here I have a magazine with 0.2 gram BBs. These are the only BBs that you need for the first FPS measurement. I also have a chrono right here, and I have this contraption that captures the BBs, which is important. You don't want to shoot your wall, you don't want to shoot anything. But I do realize that you probably don't have this thing at home, so I'm gonna do it the simple way. This is actually how I do it at home. It works well. You just need to be careful that the BBs don't go through into your wall, into your TV, anything like that. Because when you shoot through the chrono, there is a hole and the BB will just pass. So for that, I will just use a regular towel. I will just make a nice pile right here. I'm gonna make sure that it's relatively thick, that the BBs won't just simply go through. I have another camera here so that you can see what I'm exactly doing. Before you start measuring, before you start shooting, make sure to use your protective goggles, because we are shooting, so we better be safe, right? BBs can ricochet off things. We don't want that to happen. So I'm gonna put my goggles on. You should be alone in your room to make everything safe. So now I'm gonna take out the magazine. I do have 0.46 gram BBs in here, but remember we are measuring FPS, so I'm gonna use 0.2 gram BBs. Gonna put it in, and now I have to set up the chrono. So I'm gonna turn it on, and now I need to make sure that I have 0.2 gram BBs set on the chrono. I'm gonna check if I have it set in the memory, which I don't, so I need to go into the menu, choose ammo, and now I'm gonna assign a weight that is 0.2 gram BBs. Just like that. Here it needs to show 0.2 gram, and now I am ready to measure the FPS of this rifle. Gonna have to do it like this so that you can see something on the camera. Now, what is important? Make sure the gun is aligned with the hole, because you don't want to hit the side of the chrono. So pull it a little bit closer, and I'm gonna shoot through it. Okay? I can repeat this 3 times and make an average, but I don't want to waste your time. So here we can see I have 480 FPS, which means 2.15 joules with this FPS method. So I'm gonna write it down. By the way, when you are measuring these values, your hop-up should be set to your optimal trajectory. Obviously, if you use 0.2 gram BBs, you won't be shooting 0.2 gram BBs. They will fly to the sky. Not really ideal. Just set it in the middle and forget it. If I use the proper method with energy/joules, I'm gonna use 0.46 gram BBs, and I'm gonna make sure that the trajectory is right. So ideally you would go to the field, set your trajectory, and then measure. If you are at home, this is not always the case. So if you remember where your settings used to be when you were playing, just put it at the right settings. If you don't remember, then just set the hop-up in the middle, and that's the best thing you can do. In the middle should be about right. If not, there will be a little deviation, but again, we want to be under the limit, so let's hope you will have no issues on the field. Usually they have some measurement error incorporated in the rules, so you should be good to go. I have this gun set to the actual nice flight trajectory, so I know I don't need to do anything with the hop-up. If you don't know, put it in the middle. So now let's move on to the next variant, which is the joule energy measurement. I'm gonna switch to 0.46 gram BBs, which I have actually in the memory. I have 0.45, which is okay. I'm gonna switch the magazine to 0.46 gram BBs. And I'm gonna measure again. Again, double check that your barrier is still in place. Make sure that the gun is aligned with the hole. And now you can shoot through the chrono. Okay, we have our result. Again, you can repeat this 3 times, make an average, but I don't want to lose your time. So let's see what we got. We have 2.51 joules, and FPS in this case is not important because that depends on the BB weight. We are more interested in the joules. But for the sake of consistency, I'm gonna write it down as well. 346 FPS. And now we can very nicely see what is joule creep. With 0.2 gram BBs, I have 2.15 joules, but when I actually use the correct weight for this rifle, I'm getting 2.5 joules, which is a massive increase in energy, which means pain down the range. So obviously now you can tell which method is better. FPS still being used, but not ideal. Every field should measure in energy, but sometimes that is not the case. Now, if this is the case that you have to measure in FPS, what should you do? You should never think that, hey, my gun is too hot, I'm just gonna use heavier BBs and I'm good to go. That is not the case, it's not safe, and you are going around imperfect rules. So always measure with 0.2 gram BBs when you are required to measure in FPS. Joule creep, you cannot really solve that. The field owners are probably aware of this, but they just don't care enough. So if you are getting higher energies with the actual BB that you are using, consider it to be your advantage, but it's not okay. If you are required to measure in energy, this is what we are getting. 2.51 joules at 0.46 gram BBs, and usually the field limit, at least in Austria, is 2.8 joules, which is well within the limit. So you have to be under the number that the field gives you. In this case, perfectly fine. Actually a lot below it. If you want to get higher, you can use FPS adjuster rings or a stronger spring to get exactly at the point where the limit is, 2.8 joules for example, to get maximum range and power from your rifle. Okay, that's been it for this video. This is all there is to chronoing your gun. I know it can be a little bit confusing, especially if you are a new player. I know 2 different methods, different fields, different standards, but this is the very basic of chronoing your gun. If you are required to use the FPS method, just remember to use 0.2 gram BBs and hop up somewhere in the middle, hopefully. It's not the best way. If you are required to use the energy, that is the perfect way to go. Use the BB that you are using, use the hop-up settings that you're using, and you will be good to go. So I hope it's clear, and see you in the next one.